All good to go?
Yep, yeah,
Thank
good to
you.
go.
Okay, we'll open this meeting and hand over to Lorna for character.
Ia whakapapa ngāmu ti moana. Hei huarahi mā tātou I te rangi. Araha atu, araha mai, tātou I a tātou katoa, kuie, tākuie. May peace be widespread, like seeded like the greenstone, a pathway across all this day. Let us show respect for each other, for one another, bind us all together.
Okay, health and safety, in the event of emergency, exit is out to the left there and left again. And bathrooms are to the right and just straight past Sarah's office there. So, apologies, we have an apology from Boyo who let me know she is unwell. And is there any announced urgent? Oh, well, perhaps I will move that we accept Boyo's apology first. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
Who first and second of it, sorry?
I seconded it.
Oh.
Thank you.
Announced urgent business. Anything today? No. Conflict of interest or declarations. Anything today? Oh, minutes for confirmation, so starting on page 5, so just for matter of any corrections at this stage, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9.
I just want to correct the spelling for the rubbish management. How it should lose name is spelled Chellew.
Okay.
C-H-E-L-L.
EW. Chellew.
Thank you.
Page 10. So I'll move that those minutes are accepted with that change to Howard Shallew's name. Someone second? Put the motion, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Great. Okay, back to page 5. So any matters arising there? Page 5. Page 6. The Towndale Disc Golf. There's a meeting on the 4th of May, which at this stage Anne is going to attend. Haven't heard back from Boyo, and I will attend if I can get a pass from work. I will be around, but I just can't confirm that yet.
Madam, Madam Chair, to provide the 30-second written requirement.
Yes.
So if you officers have been advised that you're attending, if you can just meet at the park, there'll be a council vehicle alongside the branded vehicle for the organisation. Their name is slipping my mind now, I'm sorry. So, thank you, Audie. And they will just meet from there and do their walk around and sign up.
Thank you.
On the finish with that one.
Yes, finish with that one. Page 7.
Okay, just be on page 6, the storage reservoirs. It has been confirmed to me that there is no link in the long-term plan or in the resource consent for the fly right to the storage facilities proposed for Conville. There is actually no link there. And Dan Harris has provided me with some more information about this. And I'd like that just to keep that almost as an ongoing agenda item, but I think it is actually in our action list.
Okay,
So that's just an ongoing.
it's in our long-term plan list, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, page 7. Page 8. Page 9.
What do we do about starting on the rubbish management or discussing it?
Sorry, whereabouts is?
Put out left on page 9. That's fine.
We've had a bit of a discussion. I think what we need to do is sit down together and work out some publicity and who we target. We had a discussion prior to the meeting talking about changes. The library system, currently they've been selling recycling bags and rubbish bags in groups of 3s and 5s. And a lot of the homeowners are saying that the people who are renting places, they only want 1 rubbish bag. So now the library has made a change and it's been confirmed that they can sell them as singles.
Yeah, we do sell them as singles, but
Oh.
I think Sally's report came back and just said that the other 2 facilities that sell them only sell them in 5s, and maybe they could be approached.
Okay.
Because it's the same price.
So what we have decided is that we will follow up with those other people who are selling them, and also that we do some publicity with homeowners and target some of the people to make them aware of what they can do for putting out their rubbish and where they can get the rubbish from. So I think between Anne and Lorna and I, we were talking about putting something out there.
Perhaps we could even send it to the agencies who need toilet homes.
Yeah.
I think it is just education because they don't realise they're no bags, so they go and buy the cheap versions without really knowing them. And
That makes the town.
So what we decided, we'd look at the holiday homes places, the Facebook, using the Facebook page, the Peggy page, getting that information up there. Okay. Stone plinths. I had a conversation with Richard Campbell, who is actually now retired, unfortunately, and he but he lives in Rutherford Crescent, and he did say that he would actually, when he's away at the moment, fishing in past. And he did say that when he comes back, he will give us a call and have a look at it, because he's been looking at them and not that happy. And he said he's had a conversation with Graham Shaw in the last 12 months or so about those as well and how they might fix them. He did not do those stone plinths when that subdivision on that roading was put in. I don't know who did them. He didn't know either. So, but he did do the work on the ones in the Lodge Reserve where they were all capped after we were having problems with them falling apart. He said it could be a bit of a problem because these ones all have a slope to them. He's not quite sure, but he'll have a look and come back to us. Okay, so I've had a discussion with Josie and with some of the people who, like we talked about where we could put signs, talked with some of the people where we, in the shops where we could put the signs, and those people have said, some of them have said, yes, that's fine. Others have said, why not put put some painting on the ground, paint some, you know, like a
Right.
no cycles, no bikes on the ground as you come into all those areas. So I thought I would take that back to Josie, and have a chat about it. One of the reasons that one of the people said they didn't want it was because they're actually going to put murals on the side of the building. So, similar to that, which is on the side of Rustic Cafe. So they weren't that keen on having any signs as well. So it's just a matter of deciding what sort of sign and where. So it's
Probably in the
just,
footpath best, isn't
well,
it? Or would you?
it doesn't,
Inside your shop.
it's not a problem to me. It's just, I don't know, whatever is the most practical.
People could see it.
Yeah,
and that's
you
very
can't miss it. Like if you're riding a bike and you're looking, it's right in front of you.
Yeah,
So I just thought before deciding, I'd certainly come back to the board, but I would run it past Josie what the possibilities are and what we can come up, what sort of sign we can come up with. Okay. So that one is just ongoing. Okay, nothing more on page 9 or page 10. So the helipad is progressing.
yeah.
Yeah, we get on about road safety, mentions, right? What about those arrows, sort of half arrow, is the hill goes down? Just we sign that after the 50 metres.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't, nothing more has happened on that one, unfortunately. I haven't done anything further on the lighting either, so I need to do that.
So Madam Chair, I drove the road on my way after the meeting, just have a look myself. I didn't see anything there untoward, as far as normal signage, road signage. I suspect that the issue might be people driving down there too fast rather than make a signage, and that's a police matter.
It is, but when you're coming up from the south, that was the one that I think Anne's talking about, is the there is a sign saying that there's a corner coming up, but it's right behind the power pole.
It's going down, wasn't it?
I'm not sure where these accidents have happened, whether it's going up or down.
Yeah.
It's down the hill.
Yes, it's down.
Yeah.
Mm.
In reality, if you're putting a sign up and someone's speeding, then I don't get a sign out here. You're driving along.
But how many have been down there? 3 of them?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is a nasty corner. Have they happened at night or during
No.
the day?
2 of them were daytime at least.
Because there was a dark area there, I noticed when I was looking at the lighting, but
If you go back that way, Hanmer not to go past the golf course, as you're going down, you'll see it, and that's where they go over.
Yeah, I did that after the last meeting.
Oh,
Go 100 times and won't go down.
yeah, well, we
It's
just.
going past.
I was driving down there, not being responsible driving, but I wasn't speeding.
Well, we can always check your GPS.
And I was having a look to say, does it look like there's adequate signage there? You know, does it need signage? And in my view, if you're driving in normal conditions, then you shouldn't need any signage. It's only if you're going really fast, you didn't see that there was a corner coming up that you go off, I think.
Yeah, and the 50k signs are pretty clear.
Yeah.
And they have been, I think, all 3 of the young people.
Certainly
Yeah.
one that we saw on that Saturday morning.
Yeah, and then the other young
Yes.
woman.
Pure inexperience.
Mm.
She was only 16, 17.
Mm.
In
To come off, but then having come off the road, she then decided to try to maneuver the car off the grass verge and completely stuck it up and ended up in the ditch as a result of mismanaging her attempts to get off. And again, that was driver inexperience.
Maybe it is just a coincidence. I mean, I don't know how many other accidents there have been that in a state, but maybe it is just one of those weird things.
Is there information on accidents on that?
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see.
Yeah, it would.
It would.
Is it a black spot or is it just?
Yeah.
It would be.
So Nathan, can you make a note on the action list to get the CARES data and CAS data for Argent's Road?
I think the other good thing about that is if you're coming off, you're not crossing the road, you're taking someone out coming at you. It's your own fault.
Sounds right.
So I think unlikely to do.
You're right. It is not,
It's not,
it's not a double, it's not
It's not a
two
double
vehicle,
vehicle.
it's not a two vehicle.
No, one
accident
vehicle.
spot.
Yeah.
It's a single vehicle. And it is obviously down to driver skill.
And it will be interesting to see how many of these accidents have actually been reported as well. I mean, some of these recent ones may not even have been reported.
Not often with single vehicle accidents, they don't report them.
No, because they wouldn't want to be getting anyone else involved. If we've accidentally slipped off the road and
Apart from a tow truck.
yeah, but you might not want to be breathalyzed or people checking the length of your skids to work out the speed that you're in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the local police and say, hey, look, some parent teacher, and they might just do a bit of monitoring there, and you know, sometimes it's quite good to go with some data then and say, you know, over the last 5 years there've been this many accidents here, is that, you know. Well, I'll probably have anecdotal stuff. Yeah.
Okay, on that. So, moving on to page 11. It's the decision item, the road reserve area outside 4 Square, Hanmer 4 Square. So Josie and I met with Annie at 4 Square. Josie had had a couple of concepts done up for that area for seating, but the seating actually sort of impinged on the flow of people walking across. Any amount of seating really would impinge on that. People walking across the crossing from the Lodge Reserve to that area. So 4 Square have said that their preference would be they will put in more seating along the front of their store, in addition to what they've already got there, because the ATM's been removed and they can put the seating where that was, leaving that space free for people coming and going, which it is a very, very busy crossing area there. But the one thing that they did point out, it's not part of this report, but there is a cherry tree that's still there just to the side, and it's actually lifting all the footpath, lifting all the paving, and whether we consider keeping that in mind when we are talking about the village green and adding the area to any concept that we do for the village green, because we're talking about a flow between the Lodge Reserve right through to the village green in that report. That's just an aside, so I can bring it up later, but that was the discussion that we had. So the office's recommendation there is that the community board supports sealing over those sections where the cherry trees were removed, and 4 Square owners have agreed to fund purchase and installation of an additional seat. So any discussion on that? Someone like to move?
Happy to move it.
Okay, put the motion on in favour. Aye, against, carried. Fee waiver request for the Memorial Hall. the Hurunui Youth Formal is on again. We have previously already in the past 2024 and 2025 waived fees for the Hurunui Youth. So this is the same request differently. Any of the waivers we've given in the past, nothing has changed since then. It's so any thoughts on that? Otherwise,
Madam Chair, could we approve something along the lines of, the youth program have perhaps one event or one weekend a year that we don't charge them, and so that this doesn't have to keep coming back every year, so that we actually saying, just as a thought, future-proof it for them and to know that you know, rather than having to go through this every year, just say, you know, all who are in a youth program can have their annual 2-day, whatever they call it.
I'll take some advice on that, but I think it's got to go through the fees and charges, does it not, to make that change?
No, you have a delegation to waiver, and so if you were granting a waiver going forward, then that would potentially be possible. I think you need to be careful that you're not bind them in the future and moving forward with your decision or attempting to bind them. So I think for the term of this community board, you could say that we'll waive fees charges for the informal.
Yeah. So how is that recorded so that staff know that that will be the case every year?
Madam Chair, excuse me, I will send that back through to the youth plan. Whatever your resolution is, whether it's
go.
yes, and out, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
For this year, next year, and the following?
If that's
No,
what you
effectively
decide.
this year, next year, 'cause-
Sorry, this year and next year. Okay.
I said to about 3 years, so there's going to be 3 years, because this is really relatively in the first 6 months of this term. So there will be 3 in total.
Okay.
And it'll be for the-
Okay, so now the recommendation will be that if everyone agrees with what Tom's saying, is that the Springs Community Board approve the $378 fee waiver or a fee waiver because of the price might go up. A fee waiver for the Hurunui Youth Program to use the Hanmer Memorial Court for the Hurunui Youth Forum for the next 3 years.
Which is for the select term.
Yeah. Because it's a different-
Okay, for this triennium. Yeah. So you're moving that, Tom? will you?
Yes, I am happy to move that. Is that okay with you, Nathan? Have you got all the wording okay?
I think I have given you one thing.
You've got the sentiment at least.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Lorna has seconded and put that motion all in favour. Aye. Against. Carried. There is no correspondence. The action sheet, page 19. There's nothing on the first one. There is.
Sorry, Madam Chair, you missed item 4. There's nothing to bring up.
Is that correspondence?
No, it's just any discussion items. So, but I wasn't aware of any, unless somebody else has got any. Nope.
I wondered,
So,
and I should have brought it up on the matter of horizon. Hamish had mentioned the council's liaison with civil defence and liaison with the government over fuel shortages. I wonder if there was any update on that you could share with us. It may not be that there's anything.
No, I guess that was ongoing meetings, so the government has this group that meets to look at the forward program for fuel. They kept us at level 1, which is seems to be alert. And there's been no change really. I mean, we all look at the newspapers and see the general madness in the world, but we are unconcluded in that.
It does feel like the roads are a lot quieter.
It does feel like the roads are a lot quieter.
It does feel as though people are acting independently of our government and saying we need to conserve fuel, conserve our expenditure.
Yeah, so that's the price signal that comes through the market. The government's concerned that there is supply interruptions and what that could mean. I mean, obviously, they have concerns about the price and the impact on people of the price, but you know, we can all manage that to a degree ourselves. And I think you're right. I think the roads are quieter.
I'd have to agree with that. I've noticed that certainly the second week of the school holidays was very, very quiet. And it's a little bit hard to judge it because same holidays last year, Easter was the middle weekend of the holidays and Anzac was the last weekend of the holidays, the holiday being on the Friday, which meant it was a short week. A lot of people would have taken their holidays and they still would have regardless this year if that holiday had been, you know, like if there'd been that short week in the holidays as well. So yeah, it's hard to judge, but certainly I had lots and lots of people coming into the shop, people from Christchurch and saying how quiet the roads were and how quiet it seemed.
I think it's national though. I mean, certainly in the areas where you've got T1, T2 on motorways, people are actually discovering that carpooling does actually work and save them money, and they're getting to work quicker and they're saving money. So I think it's having a really interesting knock-on effect.
That's my bonus for it.
And certainly the Prime Minister was in Ireland last Tuesday, and that was with his messaging around, you know, it's actually making sure from a country, from a productivity point of view, his first principle is to make sure that there is fuel coming into the country and there is that long term. He very much was quite explicit in saying he's concerned about the cost, but it's actually his cost. The cost factor is not as his greatest target. It's actually making sure that we have got a pipeline of fuel coming in. And I don't hear through the media that that has changed on what should be good.
No, I haven't heard anything. So anything on those first two items, page 1 and 2 on page 19? Page 20. It's got work to do. Any work there?
So we go to the 150th celebration. Who sort of people should we actually be meeting up with? What the fools or who?
I think you probably should have a talk with Sarah and the Hanmer Business Association, especially with those.
Maybe for sometime this year.
It would be quite good to put together three of us before maybe some of the what's that stuff.
Okay, anything more on 4 or 5? Page 21. Oh, Hanmer River Reserve.
Madam Chair, I have a very brief update on that one. Excuse me, losing my voice again. There was a report coming in April. They've encountered a couple of extra bits that officers would like to put in, so everyone is fully informed. It is hoping that will be in May, but please don't hold them to that date.
Can you just make a comment there in the action that that might be going to happen? Please. And number 7, the hall roof. I guess it's not really painting weather, but we will have.
Laser long ones.
Yeah. We will want to carry that forward again, if it doesn't happen within this financial year. Because it does need doing. Page 22. Newport Pool, disc golf. So we've discussed the meeting with Vortica and council staff on the 4th of May.
And hopefully the report might be back for next meeting.
Yeah. So if we can add that into the action, please, that we're meeting on the 4th of May and
Which action number is this?
this is,
Right.
yeah. Action 10 is completed. 11. This one for 11, which is the Village Green concept. We talked about getting a concept design done at the last meeting. We didn't make any recommendations, so and that was because we were going to be talking with the Foursquare about what happened outside there. So that's now been decided. And the only comment I have about, like, we talked about including that area all the way from outside Foursquare to the Village Green to get that, keep that connection between Lodge Reserve and all the way through to the Village Green. The only comment I've got is what I was saying before about the tree that is there and it's lifting the footpath. It does look really shabby and it does need to be dealt with. But do we want to go ahead with the concept design using the money that is left over from the Village Hub? Because if you'll recall, where the Village Hub money was to put a hub on the Village Green, and the track network people have decided that that is not going to happen, that they're going to put signage at each of the entrances instead, and it's significantly less cost, so there is money left over. I'm not sure exactly how much. Jason could help us with that, and that we would use it, the Village Hub money, Jason. Sorry. And that we would use that money to get a concept design for the Village Green so that we can then put some costs together to decide in the next LTP where we would go with that and how we might fund that. So, do we want to make a recommendation that we request a concept design for improvements to the Village Green and include the streetscape from the crossing outside Foursquare to come from monies left over from the Village Hub project?
I wonder if we should ask if anyone's got any ideas.
Ask who?
Yeah. So, because I quite like the northern end, which is bordering on where the eatery is. If you come right back this way, you could put seats out there during the summer, but the rest of that Village Green is used for events. So we're a bit limited where the old puzzle tree was, doing anything in there. So they would choose all the time for those events. With one.
I don't know. My thought is that if we get to have a discussion with somebody who would do the concept plan and talk to them about what our ideas, concerns, and what we know, what local knowledge we have about the use of the village green now. So,
Should it be a consultation?
pardon?
Should it be a consultation with the community for ideas?
Sometimes it's helpful to go out with a concept and
Yeah.
an idea, and then it certainly would have to be a consultation with the community, because you can't spend that sort of money without.
But I wonder kind of, from the outset, rather than taking something that's, in progress. I don't know. It's just that getting engagement from people so they don't turn around and say, no, we didn't want that. Yeah. I don't know. And again, there's probably additional expense in things doing that, but I mean, that would be my first go-to.
Okay, so what's maybe, no, I'm just curious about experience, any experience that I've had in the past. If you go out with absolutely nothing, no ideas, then it's hard for people to get their imagination around it. If you go out with a concept or even a variety of options, then you'll get better feedback.
As long as that's the step.
Oh, it would absolutely
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
It won't happen without public consultation.
Chair, certainly, I think PJ Pies, who have hosted many events and actually put their bands on their space, they've allowed the orchestra and bands and people to perform on their place because they've got the services there, they've got the electricity, they've got umbrellas and canopies, so the performance can always be uncovered. I think PJ Pies should be involved in it, and I think that they should be encouraged, because I think that they do put on some really good events, and they could be the masters almost of some of the concerts there because of their organisation. Secondly, it's road reserve, isn't it?
It is.
Do we have the ability or the authority to ask for reports over land that we have no say over?
It is road reserve. We have considered in the past whether we would actually form reserve out of it, and I know in speaking to Hamish, he has suggested that possibly when you're looking at setting up reserve status for some of the areas in Queen Mary, maybe combine that with this. But Hamish has also said, do we actually want to do that? Because it might foreclose any changes we might want to make for that area there. But I would actually like to see anybody try and put a roadway through our village green and get away with it, to be honest, because I don't think it will happen. And I personally think it would be better to make it reserve. At this stage, we've got money for the concept. If we want to use that village hub money, we could get a concept done, then we can look at maybe forming, and I'll take advice from Hamish on that, but we could then maybe look at placing a reserve status there, if that's possible, where it would change where we could get our funding from.
So I'll go back, Tom, the question for a start. Yes, you can get a report on it, Tom. The decision, of course, about what happens there will have to be made by council. You don't have decision-making powers over that road, but yeah, but you can definitely get a report. As far as it being road reserve, I've talked to the traffic engineers and they say, well, that corner there is slightly problematic, yes, already, and as Hanmer grows, it could potentially become more problematic, and so some of that space may be needed for roads. Yeah, but it's been set aside. Well, that's what the reserve is for. And at the moment, there's a use enjoyed on that reserve, but it's not guaranteed there forever. And it was specifically included to allow for that intersection to be, and many years ago, to specifically allow for growth in that intersection. So,
No, I would have to disagree with that, because it was part of an original plan, was set up by an urban planner we had come in, John Achari, and that actually was roadway where the village green is now and where the sea is, was a road. It went right through there. I think they moved the banana house slightly, to when the village green was put in, but they decided against having the roadway running right through the shops, and that was part of the town upgrade, was to put in the village green and the seating area outside those shops.
Yep, not disagreeing with that, but it doesn't, I'm not with the road engineers, they say that area may be necessary.
Oh, I understand that,
Yeah.
but I thought they were saying that was always the plan, and it wasn't.
No, the road used to slip around there.
It didn't slip around, it went right through there.
Well,
It was right through the village green. There was no village green, there was nothing, it was a road.
so the monkey puzzle tree was planted at that time, was it?
There was an island in the
Yeah.
middle of the road.
The road basically, instead of being squared on to a Murray Ave, you could turn north that way, or you could go square on.
The island was virtually a continuation of Emery Avenue. You could go right round it, but it was a continuation in that line, so you could go straight up from the car park, just straight up Conical Hill.
Yep.
From Emery Ave, it just went straight up.
So I've spoken with the traffic engineers, they say we still may need the area in the future that intersection is problematic, so we can agree. And it could become more problematic in the future with the growth of Hanmer Springs. So the road engineers would not support that being made into recreational local purpose reserve.
Okay,
And that tree that is there on that island is, or the tree that's on the corner there is.
the pin oak.
Yeah, that's problematic because that does restrict vision. It really does. Fortunately, maybe it's a benefit because it actually slows people around because you have to be absolutely certain you can see. But yeah, I think that we've got to maintain that area as reserved for as long as possible to stop, to maintain any options that we might need. We might need to change those roads eventually.
So what do we do with village green in the meantime then? What do you want to do?
Well, we got a lot, I think if I remember rightly, I think Hanmer said that he wouldn't condone changing its status.
No,
To keep it
okay,
as a road reserve, but we could still beautify it and still.
That's
and
what
still
I'm
have,
saying.
yeah, ongoing
what
use.
do you want to do? Do you want to do some sort of concept
I
plan
think
for it?
so, yeah.
With the allowance of perhaps for him to change
Yeah.
Yeah,
in years to come.
That's been important on
Yeah, what's the possible,
oh,
30,000?
no, it should be lots of them there.
Okay.
And of course, while it's road reserve, we won't have to pay for
That is a dream.
I think it's a good try.
Good suggestion.
I'll ask the roading engineers if they want a concept design then.
Yeah.
But I suppose we don't spend a fortune on it now, we don't need that later on.
Yeah.
If we just find out, maybe put some steps into a few things and just don't, just to make it a little bit better.
So you need a concept design.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Is your own thing big enough?
That's already used, isn't it? Yeah. We're going to put them with. They put all the stuff out there in the summer and it's fine, I think.
I don't know. My thought is that we should get some urban planners in to help us with the concept design. Certainly to PJ's have a talk between us, but if the rest of the board, I mean, I'm just one person.
Or do you just want that cherry tree removed?
No, nothing to do with that. I'd just like to see probably some really good planning go into it. Somebody who's good at urban planning. I know we've got ideas and I think we should input them, but I would like to see us get an urban planner involved and sit there and talk with them about how we do it.
Mm.
I know it's a bit more costly, but sometimes it pays to get the groundwork done right in the first place. So thoughts, please.
The approximate cost of an urban concept plan.
Off the top of my head, don't hold me to this, I reckon we should be able to do something for 10 grand. Which would involve, getting an urban designer, to come and have a chat with the board. If you're talking with PJs and, maybe urban designers talk to PJs, maybe they can just talk to the board.
Business group as well.
The more people you want to urban design, talk to, the more casual starts ringing.
Yes.
So,
I think if we do the concept and then we can do the publicity afterwards, sorry.
you're fine. Thinking out loud and stuff on
Yeah.
it.
Is TJ's a permanent fixture? Are they there on permanent land or are they just on skirts?
No, that land is owned by
Telecom.
telecoms.
Mm.
And they've got their lease from Telecom, I don't know
Yes.
how long that would be.
Okay.
But those phone boxes are going, and I think it's not much use as a telecom site any longer, so I would imagine they'll get a fairly long one there, if not even an option to buy.
So what I suggest is that we'll organise, an urban designer and, get a estimated price. And we'll come back to you with an estimated price. Knowing the scope of work is roughly from the cherry tree right down through the reserve.
And perhaps if we as board members, we spoke to business, or we could make a plan of who we're going to speak to. But if we spoke to local businesses so that we could reduce the amount of work that the planner would have to do. So we're feeding in and saying, well, these people said this, these people said that.
Yeah.
So they don't have to do that consultation.
Yeah, that sounds like a
You
good
know.
idea. We can just have just a casual chat with various people who are involved along the, yeah.
I also think it would be useful if you had conceptually an idea about how much money you might spend on this, because that will constrain the urban designer and anything too grandiose.
So we don't really have a timeframe of when it will may be required. Could be 5 years. could be 50.
Oh, it's definitely not 5
No,
years.
like-
Yes, probably more likely 60 or 80 or 100, yeah.
It could well be. So we've got a bit of time to make a good job.
Piazza.
Marble pit.
Okay, so what's the recommendation then, that we request?
I was just to engage with the urban designer, with a view to, a redesign or refresh. With the scope being roughly from the cherry tree down through their area.
And that's bearing in mind it is a road reserve.
It won't make any difference. It'd be cost the same whichever way we do it. It's just where our funding comes from.
If the urban designer said we want to stack them, you know,
Mm.
whoever in the middle of it, you may not want to
Put
put that in,
yeah,
because it's unlikely to want to put a statue in the middle of it. Do you know what I mean?
We'll put up a statue of me and Murray, you could remove it. Top of it. Yeah.
I think whatever we do there is gonna be compromised if they decide to put a road through it. And the first thing that's gonna be compromised or need to be changed is the banana house. So, I mean, that's probably the thing that's most in the way of any future roading that will go through there. Along with that, penalty.
Statue got,
Yeah.
it probably thinks he wants to use one. Costs more to get a statue.
Okay, so we've got something there, if we've got something there, maybe, can you read that out, please?
From a male point of view.
Because if Hamish had said that's in you, you could have been.
Can you read that out, please, Nathan?
So community board requests officers to engage with the urban design office, my spelling up since you're reading on my shoulder, with a review to refresh, with the scope being from the cherry tree down
To the village
to
green.
the village green.
Okay. Who's making that recommendation? Seconded,
I'll second it.
thank you. Put that motion all in favour? Aye, against carried. 23, page 23.
Instead of our something all clear about what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're just taking the stage.
Page 23, number 12. Okay, having spoken to Sarah, it is the entire western side of Mary Avenue down to the entrance of the car park, which is the clarification Dan was seeking in terms of getting a report on parking meters. And the problem behind that is that most of the people who are coming there are people who are bringing in their picnic things, coming into the pools all day, and they're not actually moving, going anywhere else. And so no one else can come and go. And at the same time, she wants motorists to be encouraged to use that car park, which is why she wants the meters to be all the way down to the car park entrance. Her thought is that if we don't end up doing car park metering, that we should be looking at time limits in that area. But I think she may talk to us more. She wants to come and talk to us next meeting anyway. She may talk about that more, but that's what she has clarified for now, and we can look at those options and costs. I hope that's enough information for them.
Madam Chair, are you wanting me to go and get a report on that, or do you want to wait till after Sarah's been?
No, I think that's covered everything that she has requested at this stage. So we just want to know what the costs are of putting in these meters.
Is it a full
And, and how the full length of Mary Avenue from, and on the western side only.
What about the camper van area?
Yes, all
Yeah.
down there, the whole lot.
So no, just for clarity, this is from Jack's Pass Road to the Triangle Car Park.
Or is it 13,000 just for the paint? What, 60 car parks?
I was just trying to do a mental.
This part of it or something else.
Yeah, although I guess when you see them in town, they're normally for parallel parks, not on those parks. So so you probably get a higher density parks per meter. Yeah,
With those.
Maybe.
I suppose the manufacturers will have recommendations of numbers of cars per machine, won't they?
Yeah, I guess it's slightly different in that, I mean, if you're not going to time limit the park, we're just going to get people to pay for it. Then you could get them to pay at the pools. Yes, for example, just have one machine. If that's where they're all going. Don't have people pay for some other reason.
Can I, Madam Chair, read that back to make sure I've actually
Yeah.
got this now in my head?
Perfect.
So I've got a resolution that officers provides a report on the parking options and costings on the western side of Muriel down to the car park entrance at Jack's Pass Road.
From
On
the
that
park.
area.
Yeah, to the Triangle Car Park.
Okay.
Because how long can they park down there? Is there a time?
I mean, if you're just worried about families getting into pools to be picnic, then you just have a drop-off zone.
Mm.
Just use four car parks as a drop-off zone.
There is a drop-off zone, right by where the old BNZ was, right
Yes.
there is a drop-off. Yeah, because that's fantastic for the weekend there.
I suppose the other option is too, is that if you've got any parking meters, it's going to cost so much for the drop-off zone. You could probably also put in, like I'm saying, 60 minutes or 120 minute parking, and then work out the costing of getting that monitored to penalise them against the parking meters. For comparison.
which
Yeah.
is kind of what the options are we're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you you could use cameras. And then just identify them with the cameras rather than patrols.
That's what they do actually in the car parks in town.
Well, they do it up here, then.
Do they?
They do.
Yeah.
I got a $85 fine the other night going to the restaurant and not signing in at the desk because I didn't realise that they. So for that reason, they have waived it because I was a customer there.
Oh.
But yeah, I didn't know that that's what they'd done, but it was, they photoed you going in, photoed you coming out. Yeah, and if you weren't signed in and at the reception for it, they got pinged. Sarah said it's gone up from 80 to 85. I don't know how she knew it was 80. So. Okay. Anything else on the rest of that page 23? Says that, oh, okay, then item 14, that was in relation to that seat that was requested. Was that your recollection, Tom?
Yeah.
And talking to the individual concerned, they're not worried about where the seat is. They're just, if we had somewhere for a seat around town, they would be happy to donate one. So it's not necessarily in relation to the cemetery. So perhaps that name of the item needs to be changed for the donation of the seat. Should we put the person there or who has offered it? Or I'm just wondering how to make sure that we target the right person.
I've been doing a few of these and last year, Community Board gave me the authority to site these seats around the village. So I'm quite happy to contact them. I've got another one in the pipeline as well. And I'll be dealing with workforce and seat as well, so I'll be quite happy to deal with it. If you just pass me a name and number, and I'll get back to them.
So we think, since you're the example, I just wonder, we somewhere along the line, we might have to have a limit on how many seats we have, because they cost to maintain them. There is a cost for them. And if they're not being used, but where I think around town, I've never seen anyone on it. So I just wonder how many, do we have a number or how many seats do we want?
How long's a piece of string?
Well, that's it, again, then you've got to pay for them. You maintain them.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you, I'll probably need to go to the main shed and discuss that maintenance issue with them as well. Because, yes.
Oh, it's okay. I'll pass that information on
Yeah,
to you and if
leave
you
that.
deal with it.
Yeah.
But there was two parts to this, because the other thing was to do with all the broken headstones at the cemetery as a result of the trees falling on them. What can we do about getting those fixed? Because we're talking about a lot of the really old headstones that there are no family around anymore. What are our options there to get that tidied up? Because it's very sad looking at all these broken headstones.
So mean, in general terms, the owners pay. Their plots are their headstones, but if you wished the community to pay, then probably need to have that discussion with the community.
Well, we don't know how much that's going to cost, do we? So how can we get that information fed to us through council staff
What
so
should,
that we can discuss it with the community?
Well, we could go down there and count how many are broken
How they repair.
and are they repairable, and we could have a conversation with some sort of stonemason or someone and say, how much would one cost us to repair? And then we say, we've got 40 to repair, it's going to cost X amount. But my own personal opinion here and now is that I know it's a very touchy subject, that those burial plots are owned privately,
I mean, yes,
and I would hope that we would be encouraging the owners to repair them if it's tied them up.
so is there some way of contacting people who are on the headstones? Do we have addresses for owners? I mean, but some of these, the ones what I'm talking about, they're like 18 something or other. There are no family around relating to them. They're really old. So
It's can't just be a local problem. So there must be some kind of initiative. I don't know, historically, is there an interest in restoration?
I mean, if we can't, it's a good idea what Tom's saying. I think before you go away, and sometime in the next couple of days, we could go and have a look at the cemetery, take photos of all the ones that are broken, ask the council, do they have addresses? Are they current? Can they contact these people if they are current? If they're not current, then what can we do about them?
We know where the people are.
Yeah. Families.
Next one's a slide.
Do we have addresses for families?
We won't have current addresses. These are really difficult issues.
But we would be the
No, we're not, and we've seen where communities have banded together to.
I was going to say, you adopted it,
And raise funds to do so.
yeah.
I think if you start, you can open 10 weeks.
I'm pretty sure. In Hanmer Charity, I'm sure that the churches, they need to get in at a working bee. And they did the Horsley Downs Church a year or two ago and the Waikari Cemetery. Now, I don't know how much repair was done, but certainly that gave the community a bit of an insight, and that might be helpful as well. You know, to have a working bee, yeah, and that might create some conversation of actually what would you next be.
So can we just add to the status of action there that Tom and I and anyone else who wants to are going to go and take photos of these broken headstones
Yeah, we'll do that.
that we can then
We'll report back to this group.
What's the obligation though, Hamish, with regard to repairing them? Like, if they've come off the plinth.
Great.
Just
in the centre.
Thank you.
But you know, you're not looking at sort of concedes and they'll fix them.
No. Right.
Some of them may
You
be
don't want white ones
of
either.
historic value that we would want to make, you know, that we would want them to be. Some of the really old ones that may have something, you know, I'm thinking there's one of there's bronze sculptures in there that we obviously would want to.
Yeah, I know from family experience out, we've got a plot in Littleton and it's from my grandparents and great-grandparents and the plinth fell off in the earthquake, but I did ring the council on this, and they said we were getting consent to put it back on. But of course, the Littleton cemetery would be one of the oldest cemeteries in the country, and those, a lot of them are very good.
Whereabouts is it called?
Littleton.
Littleton, oh, okay. So is there a requirement for a consent to touch any of the stones?
No, I don't think so. I think though that number one, there's probably an obligation to try and contact the family, and try and track down any descendants. But you know, if they can have in hundreds, the descendants might be that interested. And if you can track down the descendants, well then the onus should be put on them, put their hands in their pockets to fix this up.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
But if there isn't, if it's a particular significance because of its age and beauty, and we can't find that, then there may be a case for us to leave. Actually, the Holyrood District Council, as it's now our is.
Okay, who would like to go and have a look at the cemetery with me
Oh, actually.
anytime in the next couple of days?
Yeah.
Johnston Law.
In the morning?
Oh, no, I'm saying that.
You can do one.
Okay, tomorrow? Tomorrow,
But early.
what's early?
Well, it's 9 o'clock.
Hmm. Okay, 9 o'clock.
The 9 o'clock.
Is there any trees remaining down there?
Or
Years
Friday.
that, you know, by down and be more than that?
Or Friday. I could do tomorrow or Friday.
I can't do Friday.
Okay. Or later in the day, I could think.
Didn't even notice.
Mind you, I'm thinking of trying like this thing on.
Tomorrow.
Mm.
Tomorrow's okay. It's a good day for going to the cemetery.
Pouring
Umbrellas.
rain.
Yeah.
Umbrellas.
That
Okay,
was
so
fair.
9 o'clock at the Dead Centre.
With sand.
And I know Tom's comment that cemeteries are a district reserve, but
Oh, Governor.
no, if this is going to go to council, all cemeteries in the district, there won't be different standards, and so I think it's unlikely that council will support funding this.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Well, Tom's made the point that it's a district reserve.
I know. I thought he was kidding.
No,
I think it's all Lions group, so this about two heads and then. Doing this, yeah.
Okay, so who else was going to be with us on that one?
Schools.
Okay.
I like going to the cemeteries. And they're all-
So do I.
And a lot of people look at them and on the street, so you sort of need a nice days.
Oh, yes, okay.
Okay, so 9 o'clock in the morning, and that's Warner, Anne and Chris. What about you, Tom? No? Tom? So I'm leaving you out tomorrow, am I?
you are leaving. Yeah, well, you don't need too many. There is but I think that we ought to invite all municipal members there.
We are.
Yeah, you just can't come.
And I
Oh,
think
and what about Boyo?
Yeah, you're right.
I can send you a message.
I see you missed out there.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Toilet signage, I haven't really been back in relation to that. Perhaps we can chase that up in the next meeting. Find
I
out
can do that. Number
some sort of-
15.
what sort of signage we can propose so that people know they go to one toilet where the other one is as well.
Follow up on that one, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Would everyone like to take a bit now to have our drinks, have our coffees and then come back? So,
Yeah.
okay, 15 minutes. Okay, back on board, page 24, so it's annual review items. That's all just in hand, they're reports that we will get as they come up. But of course, we'll be expecting the severe weather one and the snow plan shortly. With the snow plan possibly next year in May, that sounds fine, which should be okay till then. And page 25, it's both of those are just ongoing and there to keep us in mind that as that equipment fails, there's no replacement parts, and the conical ramp is just an ongoing item as well, checked annually.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
just item 3, which was the snow plan.
yeah,
I might have made an error here, but I was under the impression that the community board was putting together a revised or adjusted snow plan and sending that to the CIO, not the other way around.
oh, okay, sorry, I think what we had said we would do is get some, check up on some of the, contacts,
Yeah, it was maybe the contact.
yeah. So, so it's not us to put together the plan. It is, the plan come to us and we can check in time for us to check who the contacts are and whether they're still relevant. Please.
I can change that and follow up on that.
Well, if that was shared as a Google Doc, we could add the relevant names and contact details ourselves as a group, couldn't we? You know, if we all knew them, because that would make it much quicker.
Yep.
Would that be possible?
Not as a Google Doc, but I can do it as a OneDrive.
Yeah,
Same process.
yes,
Yep. I can arrange that to happen.
Page 26, these are long-term plan matters. So it's probably a list of things that we want to make sure we talk about when we're doing long-term plan, which is next year.
Might be later this year, then.
It will be.
Maybe another crack at that. I wonder, whether you put the 150th celebration on that as well, if you want to start allowing for a some funding for it.
That's a good idea.
Just on that list, so it doesn't look too long. We can do that.
Maybe to add that as an action.
Yes, please. And in relation to that, can we make sure that we have a workshop for that, please, before? Because there's always a lot of discussion and back and forth.
That's not me.
Okay, back on board, page 24, the annual review item. Funny how that's
As always, the best way. Well, depends on the size of it, but I know where last time we tried that. The long-term plan of the auditors were quite, we're sticklers on making sure that there's some basis and putting numbers into the plan. So.
good. Right. Nothing else on that? Council updates. page 29, 30, 31. So obviously there's one most important one there for us on page 30, appointment of councillors to the South Block Working Group. So we have had a little bit of a discussion prior to the meeting about this, so if there's any update or anything that anyone can, in particular, Hamish and Murray give us on that, where that's going and at what point it's envisaged that the board will be included in that planning process. Obviously, it being so important to the development of Hanmer Springs.
Well, I guess from the perspective of the advisory group, to Tom and Brett, which was in this report, and the between the representatives as well. You know, we are those representatives have you here, so I've had sort of some commentary of my thing, but I have got nothing to do as far as that goes. But the intent of that advisory group was to actually consider conceptuals, how that might work with the plan. Maybe 3 or 4 meetings in the next 12 months, and we'll be able to be inserted. I think so. That's where it sits at the moment.
And as plans develop, then this board will be consulted.
So I was just wondering if there was, I know you wouldn't have any exact dates or anything like that, but I just wondered at what point in that process that the board would be brought into it, and roughly if there is a timeline.
No, there's no time.
I mean, I think probably first and foremost, there needs to be confirmed appointment from the I haven't really heard that one. I guess until that's established, the group will want to meet first and foremost together.
Really pleased that Tom has been made part of that group. So yeah, Tom.
Poison challenge, so it's some may say. We have any news on the demolition of our, no?
That's probably true.
Okay, all right. Secondly, I've had, as a result of this, I've had approaches made about the patients who died in Rutherford. There were a number of patients who died in Rutherford over the years, and I've been asked if we would make sure that they were respected and honoured appropriately. That will be, I've mentioned that to Graham this morning already, but it's something we need to bear in mind.
I guess, I mean, just my gut feel around that, any deceased person in any hospital setting would have been honoured and respected in that process. So, you know, I think what I'm hearing is if there's going to be change to the aspect, but
Well, if the building may be removed or maybe developed or whatever, we just have to be mindful of the fact that there were people who passed in that building.
what would that look like? Yeah.
I'm not sure. It came up. It came up late last night, and I've spoken to Graham this morning. And
I'm thinking, would it be a blessing?
There's a decant process to follow.
Yeah. But not a plaque. Yeah, no.
So
Yeah, I mean,
you say you've spoken to Graham Abbott.
I've emailed Graham Abbott this morning, and I was talking to Graham Scrivener, who was one of the doctors on site.
I was just going to say that's why I asked which Graham, because he
So
probably would have.
I spoke to Graham
information.
Scrivener last night as well, and he just asked me, he said that several patients passed on his watch as doctor in the hospital when he lived and worked with them. And he wondered how that would be marked. And I just think that we need to make sure that it doesn't go unattended, something.
True. Because there will be that attachment for the families.
And the staff.
Yes.
And there's Graham who attended those patients. And it means something to him still after all these years.
Okay. Page 31, right, fees and charges. So have these been set now for the next year, the fees and charges?
So the statement proposed would be a public consultation.
Okay, so will that come to the community board so we can look at the Hanmer ones?
Yeah, you can look at the documents now public, the draft fees and charges. I don't know whether it's on the website.
Can we have that sent to us as well, please?
Yep.
The fees and charges for Hanmer?
And I'm sure I've done that just before the meeting started.
Oh, you can, thank you.
You've seen them, Jason.
Yes, on email.
I talked to Nathan this morning.
Sorry, I wasn't able to put them there.
Would we normally have them come to us first? Because in the past we have, where we've talked about what we want to do with our own fees and charges.
Yes, Madam Chair, I brought those to the meeting in
Oh, that, long ago.
February, was it? So I
It
did
was
bring them
further
to the
away
meeting
than that.
and, I think we went through them. That you'll use.
Right. Couldn't remember that. Thank you. Okay. Jason. Page 32, financial report.
Sorry, Madam Chair, can we have the resolution that the information be received, please? For the council report.
Okay, I'll move that information be received. Who would like to second? Second, Lorna. Put the motion, all in favour? Aye. Against, carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's a nice big one that you can actually read.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan.
That's a much better idea.
Sorry that it had to be folded in half.
Right, well, gone through the financial year, so page, I'll just go through page by page, page 33, the majority of that relates to the amenities rate. Okay, so for the year to date, we started the year with debt of 973,000. So far, we've received almost 400,000 in rates and another 26,000 from other sources. So total revenue was 422, and then total expenditure so far for the year, right down towards the bottom, is 327,000. So actually, almost 100,000 excess from the revenue going into the account. And then looking at the individual cost centers, we've got general amenities. We did have a full budget for the year of 350,000. For the first 9 months of the year, we've only spent 183,000. And so big variance there is in salary and wages. So that seems to be we've set our wage allocation at a relatively high amount and not spent that for the last couple of years. Another key variance here is contractors. We have a line, or we've had a line item for a wee while for a regulatory contractor of roughly about 20,000 a year, and hardly ever spent that amount. So these are savings there from what we had in the budget. And most of the other line items, types of legal fees, we haven't spent any. The purchases, we've had a total budget for purchases which we're lower than what was budgeted for.
Just, Jason, can I ask, under the general amenities expenses there,
Yes.
contractors, you said it's regulatory, what sort of, work would they normally be doing? But
I think there was an expectation, that's going back a few years, but never really been rectified. I think there was higher level of requirements for parking for overnight camping, which is actually funded from the council rather than the community group. So it's I've got it as a line item to have a look at the budget to see whether it's something we continue moving forward.
so would that be something that we would use in terms of what we're looking at and to do with the parking and?
Potentially, if these additional costs, and I think that was largely what it was designed to do, that Hanmer Springs had a higher level of expectation with anywhere else in the district. So you would be charged that cost if it was required.
So don't get rid of it in a hurry then.
Well, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find the conversation, so that's okay.
Keep that in mind.
I guess in those situations, you always got to ask yourself, does the money get off in the ratepayers' pockets? Or certainly, and I think, cost of living, those sorts of things, I think we need to think really carefully about saying, oh, we'll just keep a hold of that money.
I wouldn't have said that if it weren't for the fact that we are talking about the parking. But I thought, because we are talking about the parking, if there is any regulatory requirements, keep that in mind, please.
Okay, right, in the township, the key expenditure is grass mowing and street cleaning. Both of those items are largely on budget, and we've got a few minor items there where we're under budget, including contractors. We've got that line item from the village hub of 60,500. So that was carried over from the previous year and yet to the weeks, but maybe something we talk about.
Okay, so that's the amount of money that we're talking about using for this concept. Do we need to have any recommendation relating to that change or the use of that money for a concept plan?
No, I suppose that is project money that's available. It's funded from the amenities rate. So if it's used for the purposes of amenities and for the
In the
district.
village green?
Yeah.
So we're still basically within that. Okay.
There has been signage erected down Jack's Pass Road,
Mhm.
junction with Lucas Lane, and there has been signs erected by the old Scout Hut there on Joy's Pass Road. So that expenditure, which was instead of doing the village green hub, has come from somewhere. So there may not be 60,000
No.
available. There may be some money will have already been spent, and it would be, where is that money come from, or where it hasn't been allocated yet? So whilst they're saying there's 60,000 there that could go to the village green, it won't be that much, because we definitely have spent money on by the Scout Hut and by Lucas Lane.
Okay, I'm just looking at the Hanmer Forest Tracks. It's got signage there, but I'm not certain whether it's the
Yeah.
signage we've been talking
No,
about.
exactly.
But it's certainly coming out of their 50,000. There's signage, a whole list of signs, the track network group, signs for Dog Stream. Two lots of signs for Dog Stream, signs for Trail Hub. So what's the signs for the Trail Hub? Well, that was 2025. Yeah, so I don't know. But I did assume that there was possibly some money to come.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is some money left over, but we can't assume that 60K in there.
No,
It's less than.
and we were talking at
Yes.
this stage a smaller amount for the
Yes.
concept
Yeah, yeah.
plan. But it would still be good to carry that money across,
Oh, definitely.
whatever is unused. because there is going to be a cost to whatever we do there. Sorry, Jason.
No, fine. Right, next bit was, the hall, two key variances here. One's an insurance, and we did have a budget of 11,500 for insurance, and, what's been coded there today is only 4,000, so it's an item that I will go and check to make sure we have the correct premiums sitting in there, because, we do have full insurance cover, including earthquake cover on the hall, so I'm just making sure that that hasn't been missed when we renewed the insurance.
So that's not the same as what was happening with the electricity, where the whole amount was coming into our hall's budget,
Correct, yeah.
when
I've made
part
an
of it was
adjustment.
actually the library.
Yeah, but I've made that adjustment, so the electricity cost matches for about from the budget. With the excess, the other amounts and on that meter going to the library.
So the insurance wouldn't be the same claim.
No, shouldn't be, but I just want to make sure that we have the appropriate cover there. And now I've been working through my broker during late last week, so I've got that highlighted for me to just go away and do some tips, because we haven't spent that level, the 11,000 in the past, so.
Insurance never goes down
Oh, well, there is a
much.
potential for some of it to come down this one.
Last year.
This year is likely to come down, but I don't hold my breath.
I don't.
Um,
And so that 24,703 is the carryover amount for the painting,
Yeah.
the roof.
yes, I was carried over from last year, and most likely we'll be carrying over again, and again, we'll just keep that when we're looking at the budgets. For the pavilion, again, a little bit more, we spent a little bit more on insurance here than had been budgeted for, but and a little bit on repairs and maintenance that hadn't been budgeted for, so the total, yeah, is about 4,000 above budget. And then the reserve altogether. The key variances of the contractors, where we're only spent about $900 of a $15,000 budget for the full year.
Can you remind me again when that grass mowing contract comes up, please?
I don't know. It's been talked about a few times, so recently I've zoned out and
I'd like to, but
I will let me check with Dan and we'll let you know. Yeah, so overall, because we've only spent 327,000, we've actually reduced that debt by almost 100,000 over the 9 months, but there's possibly, there's some deferment of some projects that will flow through into the next financial year. The track network group, the bottom there, and I've got that full breakdown on page 37, and I'm hoping the numbers all line up, but sometimes they don't always, but fortunately they do. So we started the year, that group had 56,000 in the in funds, out of the almost 69,000 of rate money that we put in from the amenities rate. 52,000 was for the first 9 months of the year, and then the expenditure that's gone out is listed there, and more detail on page 37. So at the end of March, the balance was on balance of 53,000.
When will next tranche of money go into that?
I put in the money every of the rates we allocate into it every month. So there'll be whatever a 12 of 69,000 will be in April, May, and June.
Good, 3 trucks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
per month.
yeah. Good.
Okay, page 34, top of page 34 is with a contingency fund. We've again put money into the account from the rates, and also got the grants from the mayor. But what we actually need to do is to allocate some of the cost of the weather related expenditure into the account, because that's what it's paid for. So we probably need to do an assessment of what additional costs were required from the gardening team after the storm and over Labour weekend.
And there are also some accounts from Jeff Hill Contracting, which I don't believe that they have been paid yet. He's got one for removal of stumps in Argolins Road, and another one for removal of stump and replacing the bench seat at the end of Harrogate Street. And there is also another quote he's given us for removing some of the tree damage down in Tarndale, and he hasn't yet been given a work order for that. So I was just following that up with Nathan and Joseph. So
Yeah, if we've highlighted that it is weather related, we'll take it out of that fund rather than your amenities, right?
yeah,
Okay, but on here at the minute, there's 49,000 sitting in the account.
but I have followed that up with Nathan this morning. I sent Nathan an email about the payment for Jeff, and so it is possible that the payment will go through today, because being the 20th. So I said to Jeff, just let me know whether you get paid or not.
Okay, I'm going to sign off $5 million worth of creditors. I'll have to look at the
List.
list. Okay, roadside construction, started the year with a debt of 131,000, 30,000 rate money's come in, and the only expenditure that's gone out is the interest costs on that debt. We did have 56,000 sitting in the areas for capital projects for street lighting, which included $25,000 carryover from the prior year. So again, it's one of those ones that may actually slip into the next financial year. But if there's no work that needs to be done before the end of the year, and you're of a mind to carry forward the 56,000, we'll do that.
So what is the cost of like individual lights, these solar lights?
No, fast. Need to
Because we may need to keep some. There are one or two little black spots out there, but 56 might be more than we need. Yeah, definitely.
Dan should know from those solar lights that are put in on our glens. You'll know the cost of those ones. He'll be able to give you a rough idea.
Yeah.
They're not that much, really.
Okay.
I was wondering what to carry forward. That seems.
The medical centre and the doctor's house transactions there. We've got there at the end of March of 154 and 118 respectively. Just tracking along largely as per budget. And the development contributions fund for the township, a large amount of development contributions come in this financial year. So the balance has come down almost half from where it was at the start of the year. And we've got amount sitting in the walkway fund of 8,000, which is the carryover from the one.
So what can we use that money for?
Well, it is money for walkways that were originally derived from development contributions. We spent money on the capital costs relating to some walkways, and just some spare unallocated funds we have.
So it needs to be spent on some capital works on walkways.
Yeah. Yep, and what I'll suggest is that balance, and you'll see in the budget that perhaps that balance does just get transferred to your amenities account, but sort of with the knowledge that these, some of that amount, that's just purely to try and reduce the debt in the amenities account, but on the basis that, you do constantly spend some money on walkways and that's through the.
There's a walkway right through the village green.
Okay, page 35, it's just your special funds, right across, we've got, the Bridge Preservation Fund, and you can see, that there has been an allocation of that, of 93,000, 94,000 to do bridge preservation work. I think Charlie, provided that detail some time ago, and it's actually, come out of the account now. The Tourism Fund, again, it's $10,000 worth of grants that were agreed to by the community board a couple of months ago. And then we've got the Domain Development Contribution Fund sitting there with a balance of 266,000. Again, it's been bolstered by a higher than budgeted amount of development contributions. We've got a Pavilion Fund, 27,000. We've got the Contestable Fund of 81,000 and the Staff House Fund of 31,000.
Can I just come back to the domain development contribution fund? And there's 266,000 in there.
Yeah.
Is there anything allocated for that money?
It's comes from development contribution, so it does relate back to the development of the domain. There was growth projects that we had asked for in the long-term plan. It was largely around provision for repurposing the pavilion, but there's still work on that. But it has been a projects around the development of the domain been on the go for some good 15 years. And collecting that contribution's been collected over a longer period of time.
And we know now that it's going to cost us to build a new pavilion a lot more than that. So we can continue on with this development contribution fund, this particular one.
Yep. Now I think in the long-term plan we had the fund to stop at the end of this year, because technically we would have collected what we needed to, well, the portion that we needed to apply to the work. But yeah, I think you're correct. Realistically, that there is the project has changed a little bit. There was and perhaps do need to just check to make sure we don't sign ourselves by stopping that contribution. You know, that there is a larger growth project in the wing. So I think from a structural point of view, we keep the same DC running for the next financial year, and then when we're doing the long-term plan, we just make sure that we'll have a bit more of a line of sight on what that project will be. Yeah, started off, with a relatively small project, and then it's sort of morphed a little bit over the journey. So we've been collecting contributions. There is work that needs to be done. We're just going to make sure those lines meet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, and the reserve contribution fund, the full breakdowns on page 36, and then staff house. Again, we've got after doing the work in the domain, in the bridge work.
Just before you go off that reserve contestable fund,
Yes.
I noticed on the accounts for next year, there's a comment that you put there for that money is to, all the money in that reserves contestable funds to be held for the new pavilion.
Yeah, that was, utilising a whole range of things to do, to complement, the development contributions going to go into that, but again, it is, entirely a decision of the board how to utilise those funds.
Okay. And staff house fund,
Yeah, and, so we did the major work on the line myself, what it was, the,
Footbridge.
brook doors in the playground and the replacement footbridge, so those works from what I gather are completed, and it's still a balance left in that fund. That balance there has largely been, the amount of interest that's been, earned on that, over the last 6 years, so it's funds there that can be utilised again for reserves within the.
have we put anything to that one at this stage, any amount against it, any?
No.
Because I was just wondering about the disc golf, whether, well, when we do the other part, we'll decide. Okay.
Okay, yeah, so, the page 36 is just a typical fund, and then page 37 was just a detailed breakdown of the movement of the forest tracks account.
Okay. Are there any questions in relation to the financial report? Someone like to move the information be accepted? Tom? Chris? Second. Put that motion, all in favour? Aye. Okay. Carried. So moving on to the next paper, which is the annual plan budget paper.
Keep the file up on the screen. Someone else to do. So yeah, this is just the Excel version of what we've got in front of you. So just to explain how the budget's structured, here, the actual column D represents the actual for the 24-25 year up to the end of June. And then the blue column there is the budget for the current year that we're in. The pinky column there was when we set the long-term plan, that's what we had set in the budget for year 3. And then the annual plan is just the adjustments to the budget, because this is the 3rd year of the current long-term plan. So there's for new members every 3 years we do another long-term plan, and we forecast out 10 years, but the intervening years we do an annual plan. So this is the third year of the long-term plan, and even though we may have allowed for it in the long-term plan, it's not set in stone. So we've always got a chance to just with fresh eyes look at the budgets to make sure that it's still appropriate, because as we've tend to find out, or tend to know, that as soon as a long-term plan is adopted, it's already out of date. Well, yeah, it's out of date about 3 or 4 weeks before we actually adopt it. So just, and it's done in the same structure as your financial report. We've got the opening balance of the vehicle funds on hand, the revenue, sources of revenue, the routine expenditure, and then the various projects. So we were looking at the debt being 973,000 at the end of June 25, and that becomes the opening balance for the current year. total rate cards about 620,000, our other revenue, 43,000, and then our total expenditure, was supposed, routine expenditure was supposed to be 657,000, and we had another 83,000 of projects. Now, as you've seen in your financial report there, that line item for wage allocation as well, down on what we had allowed from the budget, and a number of the other cost items there, legal fees, charges, the likes, aren't going to be spent. So we're going to be well short as we get to the end of the financial year on the expenditure, which means that we're nowhere close to the level that we're predicting, even last year when we looked at the plan. And also the current budget, we've got that $60,500 for the village hub, and the $25,000 for the roof repaint, both of which are probably going to, well, certainly the roof repaint, I would suspect that we won't do it in that financial year. It'll end up in
And the village hub money will only be a portion of that spent in this financial year anyway, but we'll certainly want to carry that forward.
Well, take a punt how much we'll spend. Now we say we spend 10,000, the balance will just flow through. And what that simply does is just this realigns the debt at the end of the year, and that has an effect. If your debt is lower at the end of the year than what we predicted, it does have an effect on the budgeted interest moving forward. So it's just good to do that. The major changes, in the long-term plan, we had allowed an 8% increase in the amenities rate year on year, and that was desired to try and get the considered attempt to get rid of the debt over a longer period of time, and we've seen through the right line, but also spending less than what we budgeted for, that's actually occurring.
Thank goodness.
But most of the rest of the budget is based on what we had allowed for in the long-term plan. But I have sort of recalculated the wage allocations, the wages both for the community board and the split between direct wages, which is our budget of the governance team, providing support for the board, and the wage allocation, which in their case here is the gardening team and the property and amenity planning team that do work. That makes up altogether the 110,000 that we apply as a wage allocation. As we've seen, that is based how we structure it. So we go through every staff member, and the budget holders allocate a portion of everybody's time to where they spend throughout the district. And that was a number that's come back, which isn't so far away from what we've allowed for in this year's budget. But again, what you've seen getting costed against the amenities account has been much lower. So it's just how detailed the budget holders are when they do that analysis. We've got some other line items here, like legal fees, may not be spent, most likely won't be spent, but we had it allowed a budget. Then we've got leases that need to be renewed. There is a need to utilise our lawyers to do some of that work for us. Also got a range of charges, which we've got 11,000 budget there, but you can see we spent nothing in this current financial year, in the previous financial year, and I think we haven't spent anything so far this year. So I'm almost tempted to put 0 through that because I don't think it's, oh, we have to do it on your behalf. And, there's a couple of line items here, vehicle and plant, I've just got that highlighted, it's what was allowed for in the long-term plan, but that, it is a wee bit of a moving piece, that one, is because, it's significant part of that is fuel costs. And we're sort of trying to pin that down, and it's so that number might change a little bit. There's possibly, an adjustment to the overhead allocation as well, because council hasn't reviewed the total budgets yet, so it's just making sure that if there are changes to the budgets, that might have an effect on the overhead allocation that we apply. And I mentioned before around,
Can you just explain for everyone
okay,
how that overhead allocation works?
So we've got a number of cost centres within council that are true overhead. We don't, so it includes the executive team, includes the finance team, includes our HR team, our IT team, and their health and safety, and a little bit of the secretaries or the government advisors. We incur costs, but we don't have a funding mechanism. For one this morning, we just grabbed that. We don't have a funding mechanism, so what we do is apply a portion of that cost to all the other cost centres that we have some involvement with. My financial team does financial reports for every component of the organisation. So there's a portion of that cost that needs to be applied to those individual
So
cost
is it
centres.
worked out on some sort of percentage?
It is done on a set percentage that we've had in place for a while.
And what is that percentage? How do you allocate what percentage?
The percentage was originally based on the amount of time that individuals would spend in different areas, but it's very, you can get quite granular in it, and sort of hard to say. I'm doing some, the finance team doing some work for the Hanmer Springs Hall as opposed to the Hanmer Springs Pavilion. So from a needs point of view, we've just tried to average it out across the board. So
Okay.
yeah.
So the clock isn't taking, you can have we're not trying to hit. We've got an overhead charge.
And I was just thinking how much more expensive you might be than Judith. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, the line item I mentioned earlier was around the, what did I do?
Yeah, there's a touch screen.
Well, it's me. Don't worry,
Just gonna move
you know,
you.
what's a touch? The regulatory contractor, we've got that balance of 25,000, and I've just highlighted there as we were talking through it in the financial report, whether it's still required, but if you feel there is still a need for it, we can leave it there. And if we don't spend it, it will it'll just be a savings, but yeah, that's where we are.
So Jason, we can't, this money that we've got in, for example, the development contribution fund, doesn't have a $250,000 there. We can't offset that against our debt without a change in policies.
No, that's true. Yeah. So we are. I know it's been a piece of work that I've got to do. I've just exceptionally time for it.
No. But the ultimate answer is that it's not going to be possible.
Not in the next few days.
No, the next few days, the year.
Yeah, and I think, essentially we will need to relook at our treasury policy as a whole, because the limits are going to change quite markedly after the 1st of July.
But having these pockets of money around that we could offset against our debt could save us quite a bit of interest.
and could save HDC quite a bit of interest if you applied it there as well.
Yeah, it wouldn't be so much the HTC because I'm acting as the banker. So I've got little pots of money here, and I'm making more money out of giving it than having funds on hand, which is exactly what a bank does. Yeah, you go broke if you pay out more interest than you're in. But yeah, there's and you do have a number of little pockets of funds earning, a small amount of interest, rather than offsetting against the larger amount of debt. We can sort that out by just bringing it all into all those. Perhaps when we look at those special funds, that could be something that you wish to do, just put it all against your amenities rate to try and reduce the overall interest, but actually not have those pockets of money, actually put it as part of your amenities and utilize it, just be a little more disciplined around how the money is actually spent.
I think it's fair to say that, Jace, that the policy was set deliberately in that way to encourage those communities that had funds on hand versus those that had substantial debt. So it's designed to encourage people to focus on paying down debt.
Yes.
And we're focused
Rather
on
than having a revolving credit type system where we do our assets. So council have to consider very carefully whether it actually wanted to change that messaging.
Yeah, and also look at the finances involved, how much it could save us every year. And if it was 30 or 40,000 every year, our debt would come down even quicker.
Yeah, but those communities that have funds in hand and no debt would not receive the benefit of having those funds in hand. The money would be coming from somewhere.
Yeah, once we've paid down our debt, we still want good funds on
Change
hand.
policy, everything else. It's all about that.
We've got to be nimble in this one.
Right, so amenities altogether is roughly about what we budgeted for last year. For the township, the key items there are grass mowing and street cleaning, and again, the overall budget is largely the same as what we've spent in the previous year and what we budgeted in this current year. The all costs, again, we've got a budget of 25,000 for this year, 26,500 for next year, with the bulk of that being the insurance costs, and again, a high level of insurance because we have full cover for the whole, whereas a lot of other communities don't have earthquake cover. Taking the risk on that to save, the premiums. But it's way bit different because it is attached to the service centre, so it would be difficult and it's part of it that's covered by earthquake and part of it's not. The pavilion, likewise, the budget of about 17,000, similar to what we've had previously, and similar to what we've spent previously, and again under reserve, again the same discussion, about 47,000, similar to what we've budgeted in the past and what we've actually spent in the previous years. And then we've still got an allowance of funding towards the track network group and the weather contingency fund of 10,500 and 65,000 respectively. And based on the underlying debt being lower than what we had predicted, the interest rate, the interest cost is likely to be lower. And from a project point of view, on the basis we've deferred those projects, a substantial amount of those projects from the current year to next year. They make up the main main projects for the next period. Um, so we were looking to be at the end of the financial year, based on, you know, receiving 700,000 of revenue, but actually still spending altogether about 727,000 of expenditure. If it all came through, would be slightly higher than what we started the financial year with. Just be a shade over $1 million, but that we suspect that balance at the end of June this year won't be anywhere close to the 976 billion, because of the savings we've already we seem to be incurring in, you know, the wage allocation and the likes. Okay, the rest of the this should be swing back to what we need from the resolution at the end. But so the roadside construction account on page 40, we're predicting that the debt at the end of June will be 150,000 if we spend that 56,000 of costs on the street lighting in this year, and then that just flows through to the start of the opening balance for next year. We had allowed a 5% increase in roadside construction account rates, and that will fund some interest and some more street lighting expenditure.
So we're on this one here, Jason,
Yep.
on that LTP year 3 column.
Yep.
We've got total projects expenditure of 234,000.
I've got something.
Where is that? Where is that?
Right, we did have in the long-term plan a project, and sorry, I've hidden it, 208,000 for the Woodbank Road footpath. Now, I think that was deliberately deferred, or you used some of that money earlier on to do some works. So
There was a development of some sort.
I don't think you did that, did it?
Yeah.
You got 50, I didn't know.
so if it's sort of project that you want to achieve, we can add a budget for it in the plan and figure here. I think I zeroed it out because we deliberately, there was a resolution to deliberately defer that or to utilise some of it previous for a project previously. I think there was some of that work along State Highway 7A.
Can we check that and make sure that we've got those figures right, please? That was it a total like, should we have gone back to 0, or should there still be an amount there? I know that there was a change, but yeah, I don't want to. I thought there was still an area there that we might be going to seal with footpath.
Okay.
Don't want to lose it if.
I can.
Yeah.
Keep that in there and adjust it accordingly. Just whatever amount was still to be carried over. But that will change the balance of the at the end. Okay, the medical centres on 41. So we're expecting to have the debt on the medical centre down to 150,000 a year. We've got the rating input of 31,000 thousand plus the rental of about 11,000 and a total expenditure of about 25,000. So we'll be dropping that debt by another 15,000. I think when we look at out over the remainder of the long-term plan, that debt will be finally repaid. And similarly with the doctor's house, even though our rating input into the doctor's house is quite a bit more than what it is for the medical centre. But yeah, based on the budget here, we're looking at that balance to be about 71,000 at the end of June. So yeah, I think when we look at the long-term plan, we've only got 2 or 3 years left of that rating before that house will be free.
And we did agree, if I remember rightly, Madam Chair, we did agree, didn't we, that when the doctor's house was paid off, we would continue that rate and put that portion of the money to the medical. So we get that down to 0 as well.
Yeah, so we'd have 52,000 plus 85,000 going into it. Now we'll get rid of that debt pretty quickly. Then the discussion will be is what further projects we may have in the foreseeable future on the medical centre need to be just accounted for, and whether we continue some form of a rate.
So how do we keep that information there so that we're no longer on the board?
Well, with the long-term plan, there will be a range of projects that the property team have identified will need to be done on the medical centre and possibly the doctor's house. There's always a requirement to repaint or recarpet or replace ovens, replace heat pumps, those sort of things. Okay, your development contribution funds. So suppose we can make an adjustment to the forecast for the town centre DC fund. The budget allowed only 86,000, but we know we've actually received 121,000 already, so that will bring that balance down. And if we get, say, the budgeted level of DCs in the next financial year, that will bring that budget down again. The balance down to about 71,000, but it is completely dependent on the level of growth.
But the amount in yellow is definite.
Correct, yeah. And similarly with the domain DC, 200 has been received. Now, yeah, this is just, I need to go back and just check on how we structure the development contribution for the domain, because according to the long-term plan, we were due to stop collecting DCs in this financial year, or the forthcoming financial year. So just making sure, as we talked about before, that
If we can carry that on.
carrying it over, because the project's likely to be substantially more than the available balance there.
Can we close that fund if we have to, if that's how it was structured? Can we close that and open another one?
We would, because we're collecting contributions for a specific project, if that isn't used for the specific project, we'd have to refund
That's
the
right.
DTs. Done that before. I think it's just.
But we would be using it, but then if the project has changed slightly, could we not then have another development contribution?
So there may be a way we'll change to the development levies, Jace. Correct. That the development contribution can be kept for that project, and we could put a development levy in place. We just have to look at that, the potential.
Thank you.
But I know the desire is to continue collecting it, because when the development contributions were set up, it was I think there was we expected growth to pay for 50% of whatever project, and that project had just adjusted a couple of times over the journey, but I think there is a much better project in the wind, so we'll need to relook at it anyway for the long-term plan, but certainly making sure that we continue to collect contributions in the meantime, rather than putting it at zero.
Thank you.
Okay, the walkway fund will just get transferred, and yeah, just closing the loop. We were receiving development contributions funds for the medical centre, but that's also come to an end. But with the balance just going to offset the balance of the debt. And then finally, the conservation, the special funds, preservation fund, and my advice was 93,000 actually taken out of that account. I just need to reflect that as having an effect on the likely closing rights. The tourism fund still built up, but we know that there was $10,382 of projects or grants that we paid as per financial reports, so that will bring that balance just down a little bit. Track Network Group with continual funding of 65,000, and sort of largely just applying whatever the group receives in funds, applying that to expenditure in the same year, but there's always a little bit of a buffer in that account. With the contingency fund, put 10,500 from the amenities rate into the account, and largely trying to use that or budget to use that every year, but in reality it just builds up. We've got the pavilion fund, and again we put money aside from the contestable fund into a interest-bearing account, just to build it up and utilise it for whatever work to be done on the pavilion or the domain at some stage. We've got the house fund with 39,000 sitting in it, and then the investment fund. And again, you're correct, I had said that when we set the long-term plan, there was a whole lot of different funds going into doing the work on the pavilion, and it was just building up the contestable fund to utilise on that. But again, if there are changes to that intention, we can allow for it in the next long-term plan. But yeah, the amount that's sitting in there is available to be used on reserves. So it's largely a decision of this committee and this board how you would utilise those funds.
So we're not held to that at this stage if
there's more worthy projects that you want to do that you need some local funding into the reserve. Bear in mind that there's a substantial amount of district funding going into the reserves around Hanmer as well. That if you had a project, particularly on the domain, which is a local reserve, we've got options of funding that through the compensable fund.
thank you. Any other questions of Jason in terms of our annual plan? So a recommendation is that the board recommends the budgets council be included in the draft budgets for the 26-27 year. Who wants to move that? Tom, second. Lorna, put that motion, all in favour? Right, against, carried.
Thanks for that, Amelia. Yeah, the absolute key thing is that you're still comfortable with being Was being sorry.
What's it mean for?
The continuing increase in the immunity threats, which, you know, the reasoning for doing that hasn't changed, trying to get rid of that as quickly as possible. So, but, you know, there's always the opportunity in knowing that there is a cost of living crisis that we're dealing with. It could have been an ability to reduce that, but it does drag out a bit longer if you reduce the amount of increase to the rates.
Yeah, I think decreasing that debt is really important.
Okay, thank you.
It's not adding an enormous amount to our overall rate take. But, you know, it's really important to put that debt down, because that's costing us in the end. A lot.
Okay, there's a couple of bits I still need to go back and clarify, particularly with that road and what amount is still remaining on that, and if there is still, if the resolution was quite clear that there was only a portion to be diverted, whatever balance needs to retain in there, I'll just reinstate.
Can you let us know what that was?
Yeah.
Well, just so we've got it clear in our minds, please.
Yeah.
I suppose, Madam Chair, we ought to explain for the benefit of the new members, community board, that we actually decided on that 8% increase so that we could pay down our debt sooner and therefore reduce our indebtedness and reduce our interest payments and what have you. And we felt that when we made that decision was a priority for this board. But I suppose what we ought to do is to be inclusive to you two plus Boyo, to actually make sure that that is still the will of the group, as it is 3 old members and 3 new members. And just make sure that that is still the, it's still the mission that still owes us. So we were unanimous before, but that it doesn't. Yeah, that wouldn't necessarily, you know, we ought to discuss to see whether that is still the unanimous will, or whether we ought to be considering cost of living and things like that, and whether we ought to moderate our demands. But I suppose that would be a chat the 6 of us should have. See whether that is still our goal or not.
Well, it's something that we're definitely going to be discussing in more detail later in the year when we do our MTP.
Yeah.
Which will probably be the best time, and hopefully we're all on board then and can talk about that with Boyo as well.
So Wednesday.
Jason, you just said it would be towards the end of this year for
Yeah,
LGP.
yeah, and certainly we'll need to have a workshop. Yeah, on before perhaps September time, and to give you a bit of context on how where we're currently sitting, and within that is yeah, the key is knowing where we currently are. We know generally what our routine expenditure is, but it's relative routine. What projects you want to do over that journey, and critically where you want to be at the end of 10 years. You want to be out of debt. That means the balancing item is the amount of rates and the amount of increase to the rates. So you know, if you were comfortable with the level of debt, that the steepness of that rate increase could be reduced a little bit, or some of those projects aren't so important, could happen, but it's all on the table when we get a chance to look at it with fresh eyes at that point.
And in more detail. Okay.
Without saying the conversation that you're going to have, I think you've made notable progress in lowering your debt balance, and that's what, you know, the previous board set out to do. And certainly in my time here, I haven't seen such a lowering of the debt balance in this community as what's been achieved through a number of factors. I mean, there's rate increase, there's better cost control, and obviously development contributions this year about. But you know, we haven't seen that progress for previously in this community for a long time.
I was, I came back 6 years ago and I was astounded that we had made very little inroads into the debt that had been hanging around since I'd been here 15 years earlier. So it was pretty horrible.
You know, they come and have a look at the councils. If you were council.
Yeah, but some of that's been passed down from the government too, you know, like,
Yeah.
you must do this and it will cost you, we don't care.
Will be discussed at the head of the workshop.
Pardon?
That'll all be discussed at a workshop in the meeting.
We will.
Preferably in October. Yeah, please.
So will that, an October timeline work for you?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, but
that will still work, but
probably not. I have auditors hanging around, so I'll probably want to come up for a workshop to avoid them, so, yeah.
right, okay. Okay, so if you can keep that in mind.
Safety visit of the pool seems to have scheduled.
So no other urgent business, no other discussion on anything. We've got everything tied up. Yep. All good. So over to you, Lorna, did you want to? Lorna.
to Ainare and Hano Montekura. Such a whole piece sort of on
And we're finished.